Hey guys, what's going on? It's Don here from Novaspirit Tech, and yes, this is Mac OS on Ryzen. So to give you guys a little bit of a story on what's going on, I had Windows 10 installed on this computer since I bought the Ryzen, and this is a Ryzen 1700, not the X version, but 1700. A couple of months ago, I had huge issues, freezing issues basically, and I think it's because of the Creators Update, possibly. And what's been going on is basically anytime that I'm using the operating system, I would either have the computer, not blue screen, but it would just freeze. I could still click on the taskbar, I could still click on, other menus and stuff, but nothing happens. It doesn't do anything. But recently I found out that Hackintosh is really stable on Ryzens, and I decided to research this. So there's a website dedicated to a whole install process for AMD processors, which is amd-osx. I'll leave a link in the description below. And they also have a Discord, and that's where I've been just basically hanging out. And I've been talking to this guy, Jack R. He's actually been a great help helping me figure a lot of this stuff out. So yeah, go check them out, the Discord, the website. It's basically all the resources you need just to get this going. I'm not gonna show you a full, you could say, install. This is more of, you could say, a demonstration of how I got everything working, because when you're installing Hackintosh on a PC, it's very hardware dependent. So I have a Ryzen 1700 EVGA 1070 SC superclock version. I have ballistic RAM. Everything is hardware dependent, and the graphic card that I have right now, or the motherboard that I have right now, works for my setup, but it might not work for your setup. So yeah, use this as a reference point on what you guys can do to get it going. All right, so we're starting out our Windows system right now. Be sure to back up everything that you need to back to. And here's a pro tip for you, for those who actually don't know about this, is that uninstall your Microsoft Office. Now that will release the key that you have purchased with your Microsoft Office on this installation. After you uninstalled everything, now we can start doing the stuff that we need to do to make this USB to boot. So head over to amd-osx, I'll leave a link in the description, and head over to the download section and download the installer image. Now I have a problem with the audio issues on High Sierra, so I ended up having to install Sierra for my Ryzen system, but Sierra is just as good. And remember to go to the extra section to download some of their miscellaneous files that you might need, which is the Clover bootloader and also the generic extra folder. I'm not going to go into super details of what those are, but you need the Clover bootloader just so you could boot into your Mac, and you need those extra folders just so you have the default drivers, you could say, so it will boot up into your installation. Next we're going to need is something called Transmac. I'll leave a link in the description below, but you download this program as a trial. Here you could actually just right click on the USB drive that you want to format, and you could do restore disk image. That's going to allow you to select the disk image that you want, which you just downloaded from the website, and it's going to allow you to select the image that you downloaded. Now I'm using version 4. I know version 5 is out, but I had this plan in my head for a while, so I've downloaded this image a long time ago. So yeah, once you load it, hit OK, and it's going to format your USB so it's like a Mac installation disk, and that's the first step. Once you're done with this, we're going to head right into our BIOS to change some configurations so we'll boot into the USB. Alright, so I am at my BIOS screen. You just hold delete or F1 depending on what your motherboard is, but I'm in my BIOS screen and we have to do a couple of things just to get this booted and working correctly. So first thing we need to do, we're gonna have to change a core CPU speed. Now this will fix audio issues in the future, like skipping and stuff. So what we're gonna do is change it to your stock default speed. You could actually go to the overclock or the boost speed, but you guys might not have a Ryzen, so I'm just gonna leave it as a default speed, which is 3 gigahertz. Next thing you need to do, which is the most important, is to change it from RAID or whatever else it's configured to AHCI, the SATA mode. And that's very important. Now I'm using RAID, so I have to change this mode. Also, you got to keep in mind, on this whole process, I actually removed all the extra hard drives that I don't need, so I don't confuse myself with formatting the wrong drive. So I have my 240 gig SSD in here, and then my 1 terabyte storage drive, which doesn't matter because I know that I'm not going to format that. Once you're done with everything, exit, save, reset. For my installation, I'm gonna have to, go back into the boot menu. So now that I have everything all set up, I'm just gonna go right into the boot menu and select my 30 gigabyte Lexar USB flash drive. Hit continue. It's gonna say Sierra AMD, and that's exactly what I want. And it doesn't detect my other hard drive yet because that used to be on RAID, so the format is different. So here we are at the language selection screen. I'm just gonna hit next. This might take a few minutes. It usually does for me. I don't know why, but hit the next screen on this. Oh, that was quick. head over to utilities before anything has to happen and go to disk utilities. In there, we are gonna select our 240 drive and hit erase. I'm gonna name this Mac OS, and remember what you typed in here because you're gonna need it in the future. And change the master boot record to GUID partition map. And that's basically it. You could hit erase. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it like this. It's gonna do its thing, takes a couple of seconds. There you go. Hit done. Now you can get out of this. Go into continue, agree to the license, select your Mac OS, the one that you just created. You don't need to customize anything, just hit continue. And that's it. We're gonna let the install go through and I'll show you guys in a sec. Alright, we're not done yet. Now that the file is finished installing and stuff, we're gonna have to boot right back into our USB because we haven't installed any bootloader yet. So I'm gonna go into my boot menu, select the USB again, and we're gonna have to run this quick script from the setup menu. That way it will move very important files. I don't actually know what it does, but it moves very important files over to our installation media. So yeah, let's do that. All right, now we're back into this screen. I'm just gonna select the language, hit next, and hopefully it'll be fast this time like it was last time. Oh, there you go. Okay, in this menu, we're gonna have to go into utilities, terminal, and we're gonna have to run a quick script. So we're gonna do sh/volumes/ I think it's Sierra AMD / post install / I think it's post. There you go. Post.sh. Enter the name of the disk. Now remember I told you earlier to remember what the name of that disk was. So we're gonna do Mac, and it's cap sensitive. And that's gonna install the AMD kernel, some kex, extra folders, etc, etc. Like I said, important files. And then at the end it's gonna ask you, would you like to remove the recovery partition? Yes, because we're not gonna have access to that anyway, so just remove it from the list. Once this is done, you can now shut down and reboot because it can't do it from this console, so I'm just gonna close it out, restart the computer, and we're gonna have to boot into that USB drive one more time, but this time we can actually boot from our hard drive using the USB Clover boot up method. So yeah, we're gonna do that next. All right, now I'm just gonna go into my boot menu and hop into the USB again. Hit OK, but this time we could actually select our Mac OS. So I'm gonna hit OK on that, and this time it should just boot into the hard drive version of the installation. All right, so if you're not familiar with this screen, we successfully installed it on the hard drive. We are actually now going to go through the setup of what. No, I don't want to transfer anything. Just basically username and stuff like that. Don't use location services yet. Do not sign in with Apple ID because at this point, if you have one, you can, but I'm just going to skip this and install that later. I agree. I'm going to use done and then password. It's creating the account. Select the time zone. I'm from New York, so here we have it, New York. Share Mac, nope. Next, enable Siri, no thank you. And yeah, that's basically the setup process for the Mac, and here we have it. Okay, now I'm going to take you through a lot of the steps on what we need to do to get this to boot and everything else. All right, now that everything's all running and booted, we're just going to finish up the installation and go through the process. All right, remember earlier I told you to download those files from the website, the extra area. Now one of them is Clover CD, kex utility for later, Clover configurator. Those are the things that we're going to need. And also I believe that the post install also has the Clover boot image that we need over here. So to start off, let's install Clover. So that's the first thing we need to do. Hit OK, go to System Preferences and Security, Privacy, and Open Anyway. Open. Okay. Where is it? Let me double click that. Install Clover EFI, continue. it's on the right location, Mac OS. You could actually customize it if you need to install other stuff on here, but in most cases I just left everything as default. Hit install, type in your password that you just created earlier. Okay, now that it's done installing, it's not really done yet. So what we're gonna do now is actually unzip those other files called Clover configurator. Okay, then let me close this out because I don't need this anymore, and I don't really need that anymore. Clover configurator and Clover CD, those are the two things we're gonna need right now. I'm gonna open up Clover configurator, skip this version, go to mount EFI, shoot over to mount the partition, then I'm gonna open it, and then you see this EFI directory. As of right now, I'm just gonna minimize this, and then the CD, you know, the Clover CD that we extracted, we are basically gonna copy and paste it into here, and then we're just gonna replace all the files inside. So yep, we are pretty much done with that step, and we should be able to reboot and go right into our desktop with its own, without having to use the USB anymore. So we're gonna give that a try. All right, now it's booting up from our own hard drive. I didn't have to do anything. It booted right up from the hard drive. I didn't have to use a USB to boot it. So we're good. We're halfway through basically. So I'm gonna log in and finish up the rest and install the graphic card and other stuff like this audio network. Well, I'll see. Okay, so I got lucky and network works, sound is working, and sort of, I haven't really tested it, but I know it's working because I see the line out. And the next step I'm going to do is actually head over to NVIDIA's website to download their web driver. So I already did this. I'm just going to go ahead to show you, like, you could go to NVIDIA and actually find a web driver for them. So I'm going to close this out basically and install that web driver. Now, there's a couple of other things that I had to do before to get this working. Now, if you got a 1070 like what I have, you're probably gonna need a Lilu and NVIDIA graphic fix, because this will fix that error where when you're booting up, it just turns into a black screen, even though the computer is running, but you just get a black screen. That is what's gonna fix it. So you're gonna need these two. Well, for my installation, I need these two. And you could actually Google for the CUDA, the latest CUDA to install into Mac, so you could get the CUDA cores working as well. So I'm gonna hit install. I don't know why I didn't do that before, and I'm just talking. Continue installation, and it's just gonna write the files. Don't reboot after this because we still need to configure our Clover to know to inject the NVIDIA drivers so it could boot up and work. All right, now that this is done, restarting it will probably be very deadly. It doesn't let me close it. So the first thing we're gonna need is to use the Clover configurator, and I'm also extracting the Kex utility because we're gonna have to install some Kex. So I'm gonna go to Clover configurator, okay? Pull up and mount that partition again. And then in this time, I'm not gonna open the partition. I'm just gonna go to open on the top left and head over to EFI, Clover, sorry, and then config.plist. This is where the boot settings are, or what you need to change. So in here, we're gonna go to change boot, and this is the first thing we need to do is change the bus ratio to what your bus ratio is for a CPU. For me, it was 30, so I'm gonna change it to 30. And next one, boot graphics, CPU. Okay, CPU, we're gonna have to change to 3000 because that's what it is, 3 gigahertz. Devices, disable drivers, GUI. This is where you can actually set up what theme you want and what the resolution you want when you boot up. Graphics, kernel, okay, SMI BIOS. System parameter, this is what we need to add. This is called the NVIDIA Web. You're gonna have to check that off. And now that that is all set, you hit save, close that out, okay. And then we're gonna need to run our Kex utility and drop in Lilu and NVIDIA graphic fix. I'll leave a link in the description below to where you could get those, but honestly, you should just Google it because the link I might leave might not be the latest version, might not be the version that works for you, but yeah, you probably should Google all this stuff like Lilu Kex, NVIDIA graphics, the CUDA 9.1. It could be like 9.5 by the time you are watching this, I don't know. So now I'm just gonna drop these files in. It's gonna ask me for a password. It's gonna install it into our SLE, which is System Library Extensions. And when it's done, you could quit. And this should work with the latest drivers. You'll be able to see in a sec. If it doesn't, then it'll just kick back with an error. And this video will be super long because we're gonna have to figure it out. So I made it back to the boot up screen. Always a plus. Hit enter. No errors yet. Apple logo came up. So far so good. And I think it worked because I'm not seeing any graphical glitches right now. And let's see, yep, NVIDIA WebDriver is up, everything is working. Let me go check about Mac. Yeah, it got my 1070 in there. Perfect, everything is working. Now the next step is to make sure that sound is working. I'm gonna see if I could play something. Because we did that bus ratio 3.0, that should have fixed it. So I'm just gonna go to youtube.com and yeah, I don't know, I'm just playing something. Audio is working perfectly fine. No skipping, audio plays right off the bat. And it's not laggy, so it's got the smooth image and stuff, so you know the graphic driver is working. Okay. So, next step is to get CUDA working, and we're basically done with this installation. I'm pretty sure there's nothing else I really need to do. So, to go into first thing, I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to do CUDA Z. And this is a software for Mac to detect if you got CUDA running. So, I'm just going to download this real quick. 4, 3, 2, 1. Mount that DMG, I close that, run this, go back into settings, security and privacy because I downloaded from an unknown source, open anyway, open, now it seems to be open. See, CUDA not found. Please update your NVIDIA drivers and try again. So now you know that CUDA is actually not installed. Regardless that your NVIDIA is installed, it's still detecting that CUDA is not installed. That means if you got applications like Adobe Premiere and stuff like that, it's not gonna be able to use the CUDA cores. So you download this program called CUDA 9.1. How did I find this? I was actually Google. I think Mac OS NVIDIA CUDA. And it brought me to this. Exactly, yeah. And then I was able to get the CUDA Mac drivers for the latest version and stuff like that. I think mine was 9.1 point something. I did a lot of Googling just to find this. It's a huge image, it's 1.5 gigahertz, and you have to download the whole thing just to install this little driver. So I'm gonna mount this right now, and it's gonna verify. Close this out. Yeah, I'm just gonna skip this. It's taking too long. So, CUDA Mac OS installer. I'm going to open it up, accept and proceed, and here you go. Uncheck these two and just leave the drivers. Next. Next, and it's done. Now that it's finished, I go back to my CUDA Z. Open, and here we have it. It's grabbing information from my CUDA cores, and the application starts right up, tells me what my clock rate is, how many CUDA cores, everything is working. So now I know that CUDA is installed, and I'm going to be able to use it on my Adobe Premiere and stuff like that. So yeah, this is basically it. I mean, I got 4K working, but because I'm running through a HDMI capture device and it's on 1080, but 4K is working. I was able to play games. I'm able to go to sleep, and it wakes up with DisplayPort and also my HDMI. USB is working. What else is there that usually tends to be a problem? I'm pretty sure this is almost a perfect successful build. Minus the fact that I am still gonna have to do a dual boot on this, so I'm gonna have a later video on how to dual boot with Mac OS and Windows. Probably in a month from now, I'll probably do an update video to see where I'm at with this and if I ran into more problems or more complications along the way. well, that is it. Thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. I also want to thank everybody from amd-osx and also their Discord channel for helping me, especially Jack R. And definitely go check them out so you could get more resources and figure out other people's success stories so you can follow their tutorials and guides. If you guys are new to this channel and like what I do, consider subscribing and also checking out my Patreon. That also helps because YouTube's giving us a hard time with this stuff. But yeah, remember to hit that little bell notification icon so you know when the next video is going to be out. And as I say in my nerd cave, hack till it hurts.